All right. It's I don't know, some day of the week. It's Friday, July 3rd. We were experiencing some technical difficulties, but we got ourselves on the air.
Yeah, I think
Our
we
our
appear to
link
be
was up
good. We don't
today.
have
I'm
Doug's
Doug
face.
Splinter. You won't
I'm
see
Doug
me,
Kidder.
so
Sorry.
so the invisible voice in the background is Doug. I got rid of the question mark for myself, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would try and fix it, but I think I would just mess things up. So I won't.
I think we're good.
I think we're good. Okay, we have some content, which is my screen. We have Todd, who's going to stare thoughtfully at it while I talk and make color commentary. Todd, I got some OneDrive, some Teams, and some SharePoint pit stop roadmap stuff. What do you got going on?
Some RPA flows. I got a couple things on the Office 365 CLI, and of
I
course,
had it too, but I'm like, you've been so enthused about it. I'm just gonna do color commentary on that.
yeah, right on.
So I'll start out first, and then we'll cut over to you.
Lovely.
So there were some huge OneDrive announcements this week. Did you catch any of these at all, or
I
no?
did. Yes, they were great.
Yeah, normally you it's not as much your thing, but we changed a whole lot of things, essentially surrounding the concept of a file's lifecycle through sharing.
Yeah.
Where you create it, it goes to this personal stage, and it gets put over here, and it goes over there. And files are important. I mean, people still collaborate around them. They do all sorts of things around those. And people had a huge challenge with finding files as they move, update throughout their entire life cycle. So, and there's concept of shared folders and shared libraries and teams and all that stuff. So with Add to OneDrive, you get your shared content brought into one place, but you can also work with it as if they're the files you own. So you can add content that can be synced and the rest of those kind of things. So if you look, you can see the little visuals saying, hey, look, here's my files, right? Where I've got some stuff. And you've got that little concept, that linked file that's on the screen right here through the animation.
Yep.
So if you check it, essentially what they said was, oh, I'm working with this over here. This is from this location, right? But I would like to just bring it into my consolidated file views, please,
Yep.
because I don't want to have to run to 19 places. I'll be honest and tell you, this was a competitive landscape thing that existed outside of Microsoft.
Didn't know that.
However, a lot of the competitors have challenges with security, controls, like all sorts of other things when you do this. And hold, please. Okay, now first, there's the Teams integration stuff for sharing. So it should, hey, 365 should feel, I'll get to security in a moment. It's down below, so yeah, go ahead.
I was to say what I've done there in the past, which is not quite solving for the problem, is if I have like a SharePoint library or a Teams library, which of course is a SharePoint library, I would usually sync that library to my local machine.
Sure.
To keep track of it, which isn't a great. But this is a cross machine. This is
this is like your cloud side. And then when you go into Office, as 365 Pro Plus gets updated, you'll see all that stuff within there, and you'll just be able to kind of work, which is what people just really want to do. They don't want to think about all this back-end goo.
That's right.
And we've done a pretty good job of saying, like, here's your shared spaces, here's your place, and now we're essentially letting you bring those together. Now there's some Teams integration on top of that stuff as well. So the same file sharing feature experience will be coming across Teams. So if you look in, you can see the little Giphy that says, hey, here's the same sharing experience directly from when you paste a link into a file. Say, well, are you sure? Do you got to share it? Synced metadata support, right? Like that's the one where I was talking about. A lot of other people have done these things, but metadata. So currently shared libraries with mandatory metadata synchronized as read-only. They're excited to announce in the next few weeks rolling on UpDrive support read and write sync for shared libraries that contain managed metadata. So this is one of those. Because this metadata matters. I mean, it's a lot of enhanced attributes that you need to understand and do that stuff. Now, the move and keep sharing was the part that we've talked about like speculatively and announced some half things around that. But now they're talking about that whole, as it moves through its sharing lifecycle from creation, it needs to relocate to shared libraries that reach a broader group. And then it needs to do so without affecting the original group's access. So later this summer, you'll get the ability to do that in OneDrive by choosing to keep sharing as it moves. So that means business users who had access to the original will be added as it changes the library location. And users will get a new link maintaining the same permissions they had before. So there will actually be like the old link. It seems to me the old link won't work, but your permissions and you'll get updates as it moves, so you'll know that it moved. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I mean, it'd be awesome if we could sort of stealthishly just maintain the links and shadow URLs, but that's not going to happen, I don't think. But that'd be my dream scenario. All right, 100 gig file updates. So the file upload limit has gone from 15 gig to 100 gigabytes, mostly because of CAD documents and stuff. And you'd seen those announcements with Autodesk around models and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Now, this comes in, and this could not come as a better time. I would kid you not. I've been playing around with an open source library that uses the Windows system log extensions to gather the status of OneDrive sync. Oh, wow. And we were writing a small shim to check it into a web service, right? So that you could get essentially intelligence at the edge through normal Windows logging that would push these events up so you could understand OneDrive synchronization health. Because we did not previously
code in the trash, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, somebody had written this out there to put the logs into an extension, and I was sort of writing some bridgehead say, here's how you can use normal Windows logging techniques to bring these things forward, and a Power BI report on top of it. But yeah, I'm cheerfully chucking that in the trash, right? I had seen this, but I wasn't sure where it was at, and so I was like, well, if the customers need to do something now, and I was going to do a show episode on it and say, look, there are techniques to do this. We're working on something, but timeline unknown. So here you go. So the OneDrive sync health, the kinds of errors that are happening around that, like inactive connections and out of date, enhanced file protection and governance stuff. So you still get the ability to do, things like one-time passcodes and all sorts of stuff on top of it. There's a whole new admin experience for migrating. If you've been watching over the migration and administration and activity reports, we're continually, getting better around that. Now, again, you and I have shown people over the years what you can do with the audit logs, right? And all the events under the covers and stuff. It's just these are now coming, all that stuff, you can still do that. You can still go get those Power BI content packs and go build whatever you want to build. But this is really stepping up the game for the out-of-the-box experiences to contain that 90th percentile of what you care about. And then, candidly, Todd, the work you and I have shown people how to do gets relegated to the 10%.
Right.
Or the roll-up, where you want to composite these things from different services and solutions and capabilities across your enterprise into one big thing. Now, I'm not covering it this week. There's some amazing learning announcements, like around learning management stuff. So there's a lot of things where you could look at activity and then target training as we announce our stuff this fall, right? If you didn't see all the Learn announcements at the very end, at about 35 minutes into Microsoft's Learn broadcast this week was a review of the upcoming Teams Learn app, like the learning management and learning catalogs we're building into Teams this fall. So I'll be covering that next week, where I'll have screenshots and all the rest of the stuff going down.
Okay.
But so watch that broadcast. The whole front was about career development, right? But the end of the broadcast, they're like, it's 3 phases. There's this helping people get back to work for the 25 million people to try and get technology careers, learning paths, the rest of it. That's right now. The next phase of it is helping business users get just-in-time training, including, like Todd, accreditation, continuing education hours, and you can pull content from your internal training libraries, external training and stuff, and it's all suggested and put into Teams and Teams Mobile. Managers can assign training and content. It's very LMS-ish from a learning management standpoint, but entirely integrated and built into the Teams experience. And so all sorts of interesting stuff happening on that, which we'll be covering next week. But all this, capabilities and sharing stuff and the admin controls and everything you're seeing, now we'll be able to look at activity and target training to people who are either are or are not doing, you know what I mean? Like there'll be a lot of power in here. That's awesome. So you can say, hey, look, this group of people is doing really well at understanding how to use this stuff. This is not. So now I can target training, track and see the impact of those kind of assignments. Because the problem with training is, how do you know it helped? Exactly. Did we materially impact it? So now we have enough, surrounding data to start to give you trends. Yeah. Outcomes are important. Obviously, family and group sharing. So skim through that if you want to on top of it.
Dark I love that. Honestly, so we just used this week. We have a bunch of stuff going on. We're working with a real estate agent. We had to upload this gigantic video. I'm a huge OneDrive personal fanboy. Love it.
It is. Yeah, I have like all the pictures of the transformation of the house that we've taken as we've, because I bought a fixer-upper, which needed a lot of love, which equates to projects and all sorts of trauma while that goes through.
Trauma, yes.
But we have this entire history of the journal of the house, everything we've done, all the measurements, everything. So it's all done and coordinated through, the family side of my 365 persona. And then I think I told you my sons fiance is over in Japan. She's an exchange student. She's living over there. They actually collaborate over Teams because it lets them do sharing and all the rest of the stuff. And because you're actually getting onto our network at the nearest point of presence, right? The quality of Microsoft's personal stuff when it rides on the Microsoft network is significantly better than the other consumer tools. So they're using it mostly because of the quality, right? And the variety of mediums and the rest of that kind of stuff.
That's
all right,
wonderful.
Dark mode for the web, which I think is like, you and I are huge dark mode fans. And I don't know, kind of somewhat tangential, like that all these features on the mobile. And if you really embrace and use these different things, Todd and I've had this kind of ongoing, I wouldn't say battle, but on which mobile platform we prefer, right? I have been an Android for the last 2.5 years, and you have remained with iOS. Well, there was a big review of the new version of iOS, which announced that they're bringing essentially live tiles to iOS, which is one of the features I missed most, from Windows Phone that I really like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but the cool thing is, it will take me about 45 minutes to switch platforms because I use all these neutral platform cloud services, right? I can drop a phone in a bin and be back on the air so fast, it's crazy. Yep. So you get personal vault, you get all the rest of the stuff for on top of it. So there's the personal features as well. So a huge, I said I was covering a few things, but in depth.
I think back to, we don't say it much anymore, but I think back to, I think Satya started saying this maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. Mobility is about the experience, not the device, right? And like we're living that dream.
We really are. And I mean, I was like, ooh, shiny. I can go get the new phone that I want, and I don't have to worry about which ecosystem I'm bound to because I stick with neutral cloud services. Everything I use, I make sure it works across clouds so I can just go.
Mac, Windows, Linux, Android, iOS, who cares, right?
Yeah, we're getting there, right? Which is cool. All right, we already know about the 49-person video meetings if you really want that. Scott Hanselman did this great post just talking about cognitive dissonance of seeing that much movement and that many people, right? That you're supposed to pay attention to. So there's some interesting stuff around that. But the virtual breakout rooms are pretty cool to assist an ideation exercise. So you can come together and then go to breakout rooms and then come back.
Ooh, I didn't know about that feature. I need that. Yeah. I need that for a workshop. I
know it's perfect for tech workshops when you're hosting them virtually. So we're going to announce, it was announced earlier this month. We covered it really briefly, right? But on one of the other episodes, but now they've kind of defined it and stuff. Obviously multi-window, which you and I have been testing for a while. Todd's still back on the virtual breakout rooms announcements, right? So he's like derailed. Teams meeting limit went up to 300. A new experience for launching instant channel meetings, which is essentially the Meet in the upper right-hand corner, kind of getting more consistent around the UI for that. PSTN participant phone numbers are going to be masked from external users. So if you have a large dialing group, nobody will see you're not breaching the phone numbers of everybody who dials in for a meeting. If you have that, which is kind of nice. SBC expansions, safe transfers, right? Which means it comes back. Transfers not like a toss in the dark and the person has to call back in and say it didn't make it. Bose announced some Teams peripherals on top of it, some Teams phone announcements on top of it, lock-on-lock coordinated PC, some cool stuff like that. New Teams features on Surface Hub, so get those updated because you get the 3x3 gallery view for 9 people. And you and I are huge Hub users, so we really notice if the Hubs are not up to date on top of it. So
I was at one point in my life.
Yeah, the Teams Free is getting scheduled meetings, which I honestly didn't know it didn't have. So I was reading through the announcements on top of it. Some cool admin stuff on top of it, dev platform stuff. So just a whole bunch of roundups on top of it. But my favorite one, I think, is the incoming webhooks for adaptive cards. And I have a demo ready for next week for this, like almost. I just got to put some sprinkles on top of it because essentially you can now take the adaptive card sent via webhook and Teams and come back from a web service. So remember I said like you had to cheat and call sort of unauthenticated endpoints or something as a response when I was showing like that adaptive card sharing demo we did back probably around episode 130. And I was like, hey, this works where you can get this sort of trackable link in here, but I'm really kind of cheating because there's not security and the rest of it. Well, this ability to do incoming webhook in the adaptive card means that it's just better. We'll just leave it at that. So you can do it the right way instead of cheating. Teams for Education got insights on top of it. Teams for Gov got live captions, lobby settings for PSTN participants, and Shifts is now available in GCC, so for my government customers. So a lot of announcements on top of that. I got like 2 things over in SharePoint Modern, and I know I'm running long, so I will turn it over to you on top of it. One of my favorite things that obviously we already covered the 100 gig upload, which the SharePoint team is super proud of, and they should be. Acronym answers are now available within Search and SharePoint, so you can do the acronym answer stuff. Yep, I keep doing these announcements around Search. There's a lot there, so pay attention to what's happening around that, and there's lots of stuff going on.
I just used it yesterday. I mean, I've been using that in my 8 years at Microsoft, and I just did it yesterday. Right, searching for acronyms.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's all sorts of ones that exist inside of it. And when you think about what's happening with Cortex and everything, man, there's so much great happening in search and knowledge in the platform.
Yep.
So it's going to be a great year. I think it's going to be a year of amazing knowledge and knowledge network and actual like building on the iceberg, right? You know, like there's real stuff going to be sitting on the surface now, taking advantage of all this AI we've been preaching about, because the data's in there, data models are in there. The gravity of M365 means there's enough data for it to reason over, which means there's going to be a lot of amazing stuff. So we're going to focus on migration, security, and knowledge, right? From a trend standpoint this summer. As we head through things, try and get content in and make that knowledge graph really sing. All right, so one of my favorite things that they announced, you can now enable the ComSite experience for classic SharePoint team sites. Now, you're a SharePoint person from a history standpoint, right? You maybe have left it behind from how much you focus on it, but this is pretty slick, because you can now convert it from a classic site over to a modern ComSite.
Oh, this is a conversion. Okay, all right.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Right.
So, because you get these modern, and now classic team sites can get the benefit of a modern homepage and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But do note that what it says is this action is permanent and cannot be undone.
Well, of course. So, right. Yeah, you're moving from one thing to something totally different.
Yeah. So all sorts of
modern site at that point, and it's no longer a classic site. Is that correct?
Right.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yep. Modernization of the ComSite. That's my understanding and read of it. I haven't tested it yet. I saw it and I was like, ooh, shiny, but I was so distracted by the webhook stuff and everything else that I only have so many hours of spare time.
Oh, I get it.
So some new admin stuff coming on top of it, and then some default theme components on top of it. The Fluent design stuff is starting to roll into it. And then obviously some more teamwork updates for edit and everything else. So you should be checking out. I would like to say, I think that we have not been doing enough show and tell of the visual flexibility of lists and document library metadata and the rest of it. So I'm going to show off how easy it is to really make those visuals sing, because I think we haven't shown a lot of that feature. Only people think, oh, it's like something an advanced SharePoint person does, and it's not. It's very approachable nowadays. So that's where I'm going to stop. I could keep going. There was so much in those 3 posts. There was so much real substance, right? But tracking for OneDrive for Business, all the preservation of not only read-only but read-write folders. Man, we're probably going to run a little long on what we thought was going to be a short episode. But Todd, I'm going to pull your share up, and you can take us through.
So I'm good. I'm live, huh?
As far as I know, you are live.
All right, let's do this. So a couple things on RPA flows, or UI flows rather. I don't think they're officially branding it this way, but I think that's a miss. Let's call this RPA in a day. It rhymes. It rolls off the tongue. And everything else is in a day. So this is the RPA Lab agenda. It's free training, downloadable. There's no really a lot of prerequisite for what you need to know about RPA or dev experience. So this is great content. I love the in a day format has been just a boon for different types of technologies. So I'm really excited that we're putting out the first rev of the RPA UI Flows lab. So you can get to that ak.ms/RPA lab. So happy RPAing there. So this one's great too. These kind of go hand in hand. So the addition of array inputs for UI flows. And then, of course, if you have an array, what do you need to do? You need to loop over it, right? So we've added support for both of those things in the UI flows. So being able to pass in an array and then loop over and act upon the content that you're putting in your loop. So go check that out for UI flows. Now this one is cool. I don't know, Doug, have you done much work with Excel Online?
I have. We covered this one back in preview. I don't think you were on that week when we covered it. This is where I think the future of the Visual Basic for applications and business object programming and development. And when they start having that right side have Word and component integration, this is crazy. There's amazing modern finance solutions built on this. This is one of my favorite pieces of tech. It's crazy. So, but go ahead. I love it.
If you're a VBA person and you've got like crazy numbers, it's time to like take a look at the power, especially now of maybe some Excel Online scripting and then mixing that with Power Automate now. That's crazy. So unattended execution. So what the way this looks like is basically now there is a run script action for the Excel Online connector. And you basically just go in and you say, here's an example down here actually of where you can actually get a response and pass some stuff in. So this is really
and that's using that adaptive carb webhook capability.
Oh, it's the same.
Well, it's the UI. It's the UI.
Right here.
Right. And wait for a response. So you're posting an adaptive card and waiting for a response. Now, the other technique will allow you to do a full asynchronous call, right, where it just sits there, right? But this I guess is async, but it does have a timeout value. The other one would be like if I went and found the card later, I could reuse it. So
this was interesting. I took a look at the docs because I have not. I'll just be full disclosure. I have not done a ton with Excel Online scripting, although now I feel like I need to. There's an interesting constraint that only the person who created the script can run it. And I don't know if that's a restriction of the Power Automate connector or Excel Online. But I do know that if you are the person who created the script and the flow, you're the only person that can execute it. Thereby, it can't be a shared flow and someone else cannot execute. So I thought that was...
So I kind of got around that by creating the service, having the service account and having the service account be the owner of the script.
Okay, got it.
Right?
That would work.
So that was how I got around it. It actually powers, Mr. Kidda, an experience you use inside the MTC. Part of what I do to track data for something called the MTC Stories platform, which is the TA share, uses part of this automation framework in order to do its job. Whether you knew or didn't know it, some of the Power BI reports you might have seen around where the data is generated, because I didn't want the data left around in a SharePoint list.
Sure.
So that was where I went and did it. I wanted to put it somewhere better, and I thought, since we don't have a high volume, I have this lovely spreadsheet. So I can move and clean the list and not have my data get messed up.
Well, this is just like ridiculously powerful stuff. This is well beyond just basic automation. This is not a toy. This is really, really powerful. So
no, I mean, and if you think about the amount of time people spend in a business life cycle getting authoritative data into spreadsheets, no matter where it's sourced from, it's a huge thing. And now you have a consistent execution of that.
Frankly, I was
a lot of power in that.
Yesterday that maybe could benefit from this literally. So this is good stuff.
Excel plus OneDrive can be a business critical data repo. It is, right?
Not could be. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So all right.
Snowflake. Moving on to Power BI. This is a pretty impressive engineering work between the Power BI team and our collaboration with Snowflake. So if you don't know what Snowflake is, it's a third-party company that makes cloud native data warehousing. We have a thing that does that, so we kind of compete with them to some extent. And that's kind of my space usually is this modern data warehousing. And but they have a product that runs in Azure and other clouds. But this is really good engineering. So they've basically removed the requirement for an on-premises gateway between Power BI and Snowflake, which makes sense. It makes sense that it was there. But it makes even more sense just logically that it would be removed. But it took some engineering considering it's a third-party type of service.
I'm happy with the Azure AD
also bringing. Yes, exactly. That's the big one right there. Is Azure AD authentication and SSO. So whether you're doing direct query or import, so that's super important, especially if you have some security in your base data warehouse around users. So that direct query will now work. So this is really impressive engineering and deep integration with a third-party product. I'm really excited about this. Whoops. So anyway, that's how you apply it. So that's pretty cool. So speaking of other integration with Azure Active Directory, ideas.powerbi.com is now requiring you to, this is not a product thing. This is more about, this is a meta thing for Power BI. You can no longer, as of July 10th, be able to log in with your Facebook, your Google. You now need to use your organizational account. I thought this was an interesting change. To be honest, I'm not really sure why the change is there. Maybe maybe they. Do you have a theory? I
can make an educated guess that essentially that's authentication to the Power BI service. Yes. So
no, idea.powerbi.com.
Oh.
Just the idea site. It's just the idea site. So
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they're just trying to filter down people who likely had. I mean, because if you're using Power BI, you have an organizational account, right? So I'm guessing they're just kind of trying to filter down to people that have.
I'm like, is it spam? Is it spam?
Yeah,
it could be spam.
Yeah, it could be spam. That's my guess.
I would bet it's spam if I were.
And if nothing else, I almost didn't include this one because kind of it's a little meta, but just almost as a reminder, hey, this is a thing. Ideas.powerbi.com exists. Go check it out and vote for your features that you want. New AI builder models are generally available, and these are really powerful. So entity extraction, the pre-built model, that's cool, right? That's been around for a while in other forms. But really the ones that are exciting to me are the custom models for entity extraction and category classification. So let me scroll down and kind of show you what that looks like. So just from a pre-built perspective, if you have some text that says if it was 85 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday, it's going to say, okay, 85 degrees Fahrenheit, that's the temperature. Yesterday, that's a daytime. Great. That's pretty cool. That's kind of standard stuff. But if you want to train a custom model to start to look for things like customer names, organizations, and things that are relevant to your business, you can now train that in a custom way and extract that. And this one is great too. Category classification. The employees are very friendly and polite. That's a staff category. You decide what those categories are. So this could be things like, I thought of a scenario where maybe you could do help desk routing, where someone types in a problem, and based on the text they typed, maybe you route to a different group inside your help desk or assign to a different person inside your help desk. So something like that, where you have a blob of text and you want to categorize it in some way and then make decisions on the outcome of that categorization using maybe like a Power Automate flow. So this is really, really cool stuff. Again, citizen development AI right here. So, and my last two things, just to kind of not go too far over, have to do with the Office 365 CLI. So first of all, I guess the first thing I'll point out is that's soon to be, I don't know why we put this at the bottom, Microsoft 365. So coming soon, the Office 365 CLI will become the Microsoft 365 CLI. All right, Some things around the SharePoint framework. I'm going to jump down to creating teams with templates. So that's pretty cool. You point to your template path, and now making this more automatable. So like teams, team add based on a particular template here. So then we also have new script samples. Removing the wiki tab from a Microsoft Teams channel. That's usually like the first thing I do when I create a team manually is remove that wiki tab. So now you can automate it. And then last but not least, this is pretty darn cool. The Office 365 CLI is in the Azure Cloud Shell.
It's so amazing.
Yeah, this is so cool. So if you go to shell.azure.com, right, which is a place I often go to do Azure-y type things like AZ type command lines, this is now here. So we may need to change the name of the site somehow because it's no longer just the Azure Cloud Shell.
Well, it should be Microsoft Cloud Shell.
You know what? I think you're a marketing genius because that makes the most sense to me.
I know we're running long, but I do want to point out, like, this is why I think this is so important, is because I don't think your changes of any substance should be done through the UI. They should be done through reviewable code that is executable, repeatable across environments and people. This allows that to happen. You can submit a change through ServiceNow or Sharewell, whatever your service catalog tool is. It can be peer reviewed. It can be tested. Its results can be quantitatively assessed, right?
Right.
And then it can be applied consistently from, you know, dev, stage prod, or stage prod, whatever the heck you want to do. So I'm just such a fan of script automation to make admin changes. I have no problem exploring the possibilities in the UI, but I think structural changes where at all possible. But a lot of things we didn't have this. Now that we have this consistent M365 shell platform, the engineering teams can line up around this, and we can, because before people were like, Doug, that's a great story, but your tooling doesn't support it. And to be honest, we still don't everywhere, but you can see the increase in commitment, and I'm so proud of the engineering work behind this. It's crazy.
All right. Well, I think that's all I got. I'd like to wish everyone in the Americas, or everyone in the United States, that is, happy 4th of July. Don't blow your hand off if you're blowing off firecrackers. Be safe.
Yeah, please be careful and be safe out there.
Yes.
I was reading the history of the Declaration of Independence, and they said July 2nd is whenever they all voted on it, and then the 3rd was the day they proofed it and made copies, and the 4th was the official presentation and everything. Right?
You just had this weird like flash thought of like doing this through OneDrive and like, you know, passing around you know, versions and you know.
Have you seen the video of that? It's a thing. Okay, I will find it. We'll post it into show notes. We have this awesome co-authoring video of authoring the Declaration of Independence in Office.
Okay.
So I will absolutely find that, and we will share it out to you all. It's a few years old, but it's still as powerful as when it was produced. I absolutely love it. It's just like the power of, and they even make it look like they changed the background and the font, and it's pretty
that's hilarious.
It's pretty crazy. So I'll find it and post it in honor of today, or tweet it out or something like that. So
all right. Well, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you probably next week, I think, right?
Yeah, and I'll get my camera and instead of content back on the air for next week. So you all be good and be safe, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Cheers.